On today's episode, we are looking at why my family decided to become expats, why we decided to move halfway around the world, completely away from all our friends and family to start a new life, basically. It may get a little personal, but maybe you can relate. Welcome to another episode of This Indulgent Life, where together wanderlusting families navigate respectful parenting, education, and fulfilling our dreams of having an extraordinary life through travel. We believe that life shouldn't just be an obligation, and that the American dream isn't the same for everyone. We believe that life should be an indulgence, so cherished and enjoyed. And the best way to do that is through enjoying experiences together and following our hearts. May you be inspired to do the same. I think the best way to start this conversation is to explain to you what our lives were like before we moved to Hong Kong, before we even made the decision to come here. So let me describe to you what was going really well in our lives. For one, we lived in Ware Shoals, South Carolina, and it's where my husband's family is all from. It's a small little town. And we went to a church called Seacoast. And if you are ever in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, that area where there is a Seacoast, you should check it out because it's a pretty amazing church. In fact, I think I was more sad to leave Seacoast than I was leaving our family and the U.S. and anything, really. In addition to Seacoast, that was going really well, we had family nearby. And while that can definitely present some challenges, it was also really nice to have that support and backup and those kind of family traditions. The other thing that I enjoyed, my husband and I both ran our own video and photo business. We did portraits and weddings, and we were really focused on helping families and couples connect. We believed that photography was just the byproduct of that experience, and that brought me so much joy, and we had so many amazing clients. Shout out to all our One Heart Studios clients. But at the same time, it takes a long time to build a photography business to the point where you can be self-sufficient, and we were struggling. So this leads me into the cons of what our life was. Financially, we were struggling. In fact, at one point in time, we had to be on food stamps. Not something I'm super proud of, but we were working. We just needed some extra help, and it helped, and it helped us be healthy. And I will be forever grateful for that, because I could never have found low carb and felt comfortable doing that if we hadn't had that extra support at the time. The other things are job prospects. So my husband, he really wanted to be a firefighter, but there were no real firefighting jobs available. And as a teacher, I'm an art teacher. I wanted to be an art teacher, and in order to be an art teacher, you had to go back to school for some extra classes, because my certification was in another state. And the only certification that transferred over was my elementary ed certificate. And I did not want to go back to school. I did not want to spend that extra money. And it was in a completely different part of the state that I would have had to go to school and take some classes. And honestly, there weren't that many jobs available either. In fact, my good friend Jessie is the art teacher in the town that we were in. So there just weren't a lot of job prospects for any of us. Not to mention, teaching in the U.S. is hard. It is exhausting. Like, I'm exhausted as a teacher here, but to be a teacher, especially a specialties teacher in the U.S., that is beyond hard. And there's not much support or financial stability in that either. I mean, you get a paycheck, but it's not very much, and usually teachers have to take on second jobs. So that was a big part of what our life was like there. So there came this moment where I realized that something had to give. Even though our marriage was doing better, and the business was growing, I just, inside I knew something was wrong and that something needed to change. And I remember specifically that there was this moment, and I don't remember, I think we were leaving to go somewhere, and my husband asked me, what's wrong? And that could be quite a loaded question. Husbands, you know, that's a loaded question for a wife. But I remember looking at him and saying, I'm dying inside. I am dying. My soul is literally dying. And I didn't exactly know what that meant. I just knew something needed to change. And I bet you many of you listening today have had that moment, and maybe you still have that moment and don't know what to do about it. For me, I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. I never remember those pivotal moments. I remember the moments after the pivotal moments. But I ended up finding this ebook by this guy who taught English abroad and was making lots of money doing it. I mean, he was a single guy. And I realized, wait, I can still do that. I had always thought that being able to live and work abroad was something that young single people did. And then I realized, wait, there are like international schools abroad. I can teach English abroad. So many options. Let me look into this. And so I did a little bit. I bought that ebook, and I looked at my husband in the car one day and I said, I don't want you to answer. I don't want you to make any decisions right now. I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to take a few days, and I want you to pray on it and think on it before giving me your answer. And I told him, you know, as I told you before, I'm dying inside. I need a change. What do you think about moving abroad? What do you think about me finding a teaching job in another country and we move our family there? Which at the time was him, me, and 2 dogs. And after a little bit of time, and I'm sure he completely thought I was insane, but maybe he didn't because he knew the type of person I am. I move around. He said, sure, let's try it. We'll look into it. We'll see what kind of jobs are out there. And we started by first looking at teaching English jobs, and then we looked at teaching in Abu Dhabi at the Abu Dhabi government schools. You could be like a homeroom or an English teacher there. And that's when I realized that that was not the direction I wanted to go. I wanted to be an art teacher. And sometimes you have to have those moments where that doesn't make, that was a big failure. In fact, that interview, if you could grade an interview, I'm pretty sure that would have been an F. I was like sweating and my hands were all knotted. You're sitting in this like hotel conference room on a Skype interview, and they give you these crazy questions. And I flunked that interview completely. But you know what? I left there and I realized, yeah, that is not what I want to do. That wasn't it at all. And if I'm going to go through this process, if I'm going to move our whole family abroad, I'm going to do it for a job that I've always wanted, which was to be an art teacher. And we did. Fast forward 2 months, we had interviewed and got it, accepted a job. And then 2 weeks after accepting the job, we were in Hong Kong starting that job. So I'm going to just briefly describe to you what our hopes were for living abroad. And some things happened, some things haven't. Usually if something hasn't happened, it's because of our own failures, and we've learned from those. And I'll get into that in future episodes. But you know what? Everyone has their own goals. And these were the ones that we really wanted to accomplish. Okay, so first thing we wanted was to save money. Obviously, I had heard about how all these expats are making loads and loads of money and they were saving it and paying off all their student loans. And you really, really can, especially if you're a business person, like a banker or a marketing person, a CEO of some kind, obviously, or pilot, you make way more money overseas than you would in your home country. As a teacher, you make more money than you do in your home country, but it's still not like amazing. It's more than you'd get back home, but we also have a higher cost of living, and my husband didn't have a job. So we could have saved more money if we had been more responsible with our money, but there was still a lot of things that we needed to do to be able to start our family, to find the house, bring the dogs over, and so we didn't actually end up saving as much as we had expected. I think if we were to continue, and the longer you stay in one place, I think the easier it would be to save more. And of course, if you're a spouse and you are both working good expat jobs, then the potentials for savings, you could potentially save about $1,000 US of one income plus all of the other income. So you really do have potential to save if the situation works, right? Like if everything lines up. Another thing that I kind of hinted at was that we wanted to be able to start a family. And where we were in the US and our situation there, I did not feel comfortable starting a family. We were not financially stable enough. Jobs, that whole issue, maternity leave, paternity leave, that's still an issue in the US. But all of those things just made it impossible. Not to mention the fact that we had infertility issues. And getting that done in the US, having those tests and everything, I couldn't afford it. There was just no way. Whereas here, we were able to take some of that money we made and do that. And of course, we were able to start our family, and we have our 2-year-old little boogie. He was born here in Hong Kong. And I'm really, really thankful that so even though I didn't particularly care for the experience, I am happy that I was able to have 10 weeks total, even though 4 of it I had to take before he was born because he was late, at 80% pay. I would not have been able to survive on maternity leave back in the US. And so I'm really grateful for that. Of course, we wanted to travel more. We did get to go on a couple trips. One of them even, we met up with my best friend from here and her family, and that was amazing. We got to do one trip where the hotel owner volunteered in local schools, and we went and did that with him. And so we did get to travel a little bit, but not nearly as much as I had wanted to, because we weren't as responsible with our money as we should have been. And every 2 years they give you flights home. Well, our school gives you flights home, and that ended up being a huge expense to go visit our family. Like, way more money than we should have spent. But in order to visit all the parents, that's what you got to do. And I'm glad we did, because I got to see my grandfather one last time. So, I mean, in the end, that's okay. But we did want to travel more. But I do have friends. They travel every single school break. They go to all sorts of places here in Asia and Australia. And so Hong Kong is a really great place for exploring this side of the world. We just didn't get to do it as much as we had wanted. But I do have plans to come back. I also wanted to meet more people, more different people. I mean, when you're living in small town USA, everyone's the same for the most part. They all go to the same schools, they all go to the same restaurants, they all go to the same churches, they look the same, they do the same thing. There's not much diversity. And I'm a person that has always loved being around cultures and learning about cultures. And when you're in one spot, it's the same culture all the time. And we weren't living in like a big city that had lots of great museums and, activities. There were some. Greenville's pretty good. But it just wasn't like what I wanted out of life, right? Like I wanted more. I mean, right now my best friend is Chinese born Scottish. And another one of my best friends is Malay. And then I do have an American friend that just co-happens. And I have South Africans and English. And it's just, my world as an expat is filled with diversity. It's filled with people of many different cultures. And hearing from them and getting the input from them really helps you grow and have an open mind. I mean, travel itself does that, right? Like when you travel, you have to have a more open mind. You can't expect the world to be what you want it to, and that helps you to be more relaxed and whatnot. So that is something that I really wanted, and I do have, and I will treasure these friendships forever, and everything that they've given me. We also really wanted to learn a new language. I remember before we left, we were like, we are learning Cantonese. We are so going to learn it. We're moving there. When you move to a new country, you have to learn their language. It's, it's just right. And Alan, he did pretty good. I mean, he's not great, but he learned enough to be able to talk in the marketplace and stuff. Me, I can say maybe 5 words. Let's see. Yeah, Josan Ungoi. Yeah, maybe 5. I can count to 3. I tried. I really, really did. I so tried, but I failed. Failed very miserably. They were very kind to me and didn't laugh to my face. But let's just say, I love languages, but it's not my forte. But if I went to France, a language that I had studied for 6 years, I would obviously be better at it and be more, we do want to learn Spanish with our son, and we do want to expose our son. That was another thing. Our son is exposed to 3 or 4 languages every single day. And while he can't speak them all, he has said words in them all. And he can hear them. And people will talk to him in Cantonese, and he'll respond in his alien babble. So the brain capacity that he's developing for languages living here is unparalleled to what he could get in the US. So that kind of gives you a bit about why we decided to become expats. It doesn't really go into depth about how we did it. I can get into that in another episode if you want. But I think a lot of people feel that need to explore. We didn't have jobs that we could take on the road, or internet jobs that we could do anywhere. So we had to find a real, I guess you could say, stick and bricks type of job. And this allowed us to do all those things that we wanted while still having the security and stability of a day-to-day job. And so if you are one of those people that want to get out and to explore more and try new things, but you also don't really want to build your own business, then this could be an amazing possibility for you. In fact, here in Hong Kong, you just need a bachelor's degree to be able to teach English in schools. However, you could start your own business here. But you could start a stick and bricks, and they do really well here. You could join camps, you could do marketing, you could do festivals. Even Harley Davidson is here, and Five Guys is here now. So there's so many opportunities for you here. You just need to take that first step. And just like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I mean, what's the worst that can happen if you start this process? You don't get a job and you don't go, right? Like, I didn't quit my job until I had secured another one. My husband didn't quit his until we had secured this. So what is the worst that could happen? You just try and see what happens. And if you come over here and you don't like it, you just go back. You know, what if you just took 1 year to try something new? It could change your life. It could just be one amazing year and then you go back to what you were doing. Or it could be the start of a whole bunch of adventures. You never know. So life doesn't have to be stagnant. Life doesn't have to be that obligation of, well, you know, we all gotta suffer through our jobs. That's just what everybody does. You know, I don't like my job. This is what I hear from especially like my parents and whatnot. You don't have to like your job, but you gotta do it. And that's true to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean you can't actively pursue something else as well. It doesn't mean you can't move abroad. You know, you might love it. So you should give it a try. It's okay to change directions. It's okay to explore new possibilities. You know, life doesn't have to be one job, one path. I have been a photographer, I've been a teacher, photographer, teacher, and now I am still teaching, but instead of teaching, well, I'm still teaching school, but I'm also going to be teaching adults. And if you want help to figure out what your next step should be and how to take that next step, please do call me and I will help you through that, or message me, email me on any of the social media sites. I respond usually within 48 hours, and I'd love to help you take that next step. So thank you again for listening to this episode about why we decided to become expats. Please subscribe and leave an honest review. That really helps me on iTunes and on YouTube, depending on where you're listening to this and watching. And I also want to get to know what you like and dislike and what you want to see, because that helps me help you. And this isn't just all about me. This is a community. This is a place for you to get the information and inspiration that you need. So please remember to subscribe. You'll get the downloads every week when they happen, and you can listen on your own time. Thank you again so much. And remember, we are running a launch week giveaway, so make sure that you follow the directions in the show notes on how to do that. Thanks again.